So, welcome back to another episode. Welcome back to another Rob.
Hello.
And I gotta say, Rob came over and had a very nice growly voice today.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a rasp in it.
It's a teeny bit.
Tiny bit.
And that kind of works out because we're going to talk about times in our lives when we had drank a little too much on a night.
Us?
We've never done that before. Never.
Not every night of my life.
Maybe once a year. No. There was times in our younger youth when we used to drink quite a lot because we were stupid and we had nothing else to do. We didn't have the internet back then. I'm not making an excuse, but we kind of filled our time with cigarettes and beer, and that's kind of what we did. And we woke up and played video games.
And they're some of the best years ever.
They were not bad.
They were terrible.
They were not bad, and we wanted to come in and talk about some of our memories with Hangover games. Games we played that kind of made us feel a little better the next day.
See, video games make an excellent hangover cure.
Yes.
Especially, you know, if you can play them in a fairly quiet room where you can just focus on the game. It takes your mind off of all of the ow and all the... and it just lets you focus on what's up there. And it's a great thing.
It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And there was one time back in the day where... Okay, I got to say a little backstory with this game. Goonies 2.
Okay. This game is amazing, but...
no pun intended, amazing.
Yes.
Yes, it's a huge maze. It's very confusing. There's a lot going on. I never could get through it back in the day.
Me neither.
At all.
It was so convoluted, and the way that it was set up, you go in a door and all of a sudden you're on a completely different map, but somehow those were supposed to connect to... I got lost.
It kind of, honestly, it's like the super string theory of video games. It's like, oh, where do I connect? Where do I get to the next level to?
And I have always had since the Christmas I got my Nintendo.
Yeah.
The official Nintendo Player's Guide. And inside there's a full map setup. But the way they designed that map setup is, again, I mean, there's these little pink lines that sort of go, well, this door goes to this bit, then this goes to that goes to this goes over here, that one goes over that way. And it's confusing as hell.
It is insane.
Even with this book, back in the day, I could not figure out what the hell I was supposed to do.
Look at this!
No idea.
Look at this. We've talked about this before. We're talking about it again. We're modernizing it.
There's a reason for that.
There's a reason for that. There was a really wonderful time.
One magical day.
Yes, where I had drank the night before. I didn't even know what I was doing, but I knew what I was doing the next day was having a hangover because I felt so rotten. And it got, like, through the day, I was able to make it through the day, and then I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my god, like, I don't know how to get through this. It was like just grating on me. It's like everything is just so down and depressing and horrible.
Oh, the worst.
Yes, and then you came over, which was so great.
And back in those days, you kept your basement door unlocked. So
this was the 90s.
There was a sort of, your house was on a corner, and there was like a cul-de-sac street, but you had to get into that little cul-de-sac street, and then the driveway kind of curled under the patio by your kitchen. And in there was a door, and so he would leave that unlocked, and I'd go in. Every day, I'd show up, get off my bike, walk in the door, and, you know, I'd
get off my bike or my skateboard.
One of the two. Walk in the door, because it was always unlocked, and it was, oh, hey, what the fuck are you doing here? Oh, hey, how you doing, buddy?
That's regular talk for us back then.
And right on to, what the hell are we going to do today?
Yeah.
And this was one of those days where, definitely, because you were still in your robe.
Oh, yeah, it was not good.
In his robe, he looked like 5 miles of bad road and death.
And also, like, smoking a lot of cigarettes back then, and Hangover made it, like, amplified it by, like, 50 times. It was horrible.
So,
the worst.
I had brought over Goonies 2 in my Nintendo Player Guide, and I said, you know what? I was just kind of feeling this. Do you mind if I just put this on and try and play through it? And I figured I was torturing myself, but I was nowhere near as hungover as this guy. I mean, I was hungover. We always were, but this guy was dying.
Do you know what? There's another episode I would like to do one time. It's just like couch gaming. Watching somebody else play video games. It's one of the things that I've enjoyed doing. I've enjoyed watching you play video games over the years. My wife, Andrew, I was forced to back in the day. But it was, I kind of was like, I could sit down. I was like, yeah, man, just do it. Just go for it. And I honestly, I'm not saying that I doubted you.
No.
But like this game.
I doubted me.
Yeah, it was so crazy back then.
I doubted me because there's no, I had attempted this more times than I could count.
Yeah.
And failed miserably every time.
I always failed too.
Don't judge me. I was a bad player, whatever. But I put it in, and some sort of bizarre, perverse hangover magic happened. And it all just started kind of tumbling and clicking and locking into place, and all of a sudden, oh, I can go here, and then I have to go and get that, and this makes sense to go there, and I started jumping, and the platforming I was good with. I mean, I was a Mega Man player, I was a Mario player. Platforming and action games were my jam until I met this guy, and he taught me about RPGs. So that was excellent. And the platform was great, but it was finding my way around and using that map.
You know what happened is, you cracked the code.
I did.
You figured out what to do. Where when you sit and actually look at it, and you look at all the items you've got to get, and then again, I'm going to show you the map here. Look at that. Okay, this is the first one I'm going to show, but look at this. Look at this.
So, hold on. This one, that's all of the rooms, the layouts, because it goes first person. You have to like find stuff and knock open walls and all sorts of crap. And then on the next page, this is what I'm talking about. Look at this. Look at this. Look at that. From the front stage to the back stage. So every time you go through a door, you go from a front to a back or a back to a front. And you have to know which ones go where. Look at that.
It's fucking crazy.
And I cracked that code.
You cracked the code.
I cracked the code and I figured it out. And by the time I was done, we were starting to feel a little better.
Yeah, I was feeling better. You weren't as hungover as I was. Like you were, like back then we were always in an eternal hangover.
Okay, yes.
But some were worse than others. Mine was really bad. I couldn't even play a game. I was like shaky, and I was like, oh, geez.
Our average was usually a 4 to 6 beer night.
Yeah,
I think that one had been like a 12 beer night before.
That was
We've been a little bit too crazy.
That was a very, very heavy one. And you finished it. It was fantastic. It was incredible.
And but it's such a great memory, and the Hangover kind of makes it better in a way.
It kind of does in a way. And I'm gonna get to another game in a second. I just want to mention. I mentioned it before. Mega Man Legends is a favorite video game. We've mentioned it before. How much we love the game. But it's really weird. I had a copy of the game back in the day, and I hadn't turned it on. I went out and had a crazy party night on my own with some of my other friends, and I woke up in the morning and I was like, good Lord, no! And I'm like, what am I going to do today? It was a Sunday. I know it was a Sunday, and I was like, oh, Jesus. And I was like, I had the PlayStation in the room, and I was like, okay, I'll put it in. Light a cigarette, start playing it. And I just started getting into it. And I finished the game in one sitting. I finished the game in one sitting. I sat for the whole day and was absorbed. And it was the one game I can honestly say got rid of my hangover. I wasn't thinking about, I had a hangover, but I was like, no, I'm playing a game. Don't have time for a hangover. Nice. And I forgot about a hangover until I finished playing. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm still hungover. That's a really nice one for sure. But then we're going to get into another one where we've been playing Resident Evil 2, the remake, and we love the game.
Capcom, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. This is the greatest love letter this game could ever.
Yes, so here's the thing, though. You got to talk about the story of picking up this game, and because it's going to lead into a hangover adventure.
So, when the game first launched, I worked at a coffee shop in the middle of downtown, and I lived in a suburb area, much far away from that. So, launch day, I finished my shift, I got on the bus, and I rode up one street to where there was a mall with an EB Games. I knew the staff, I knew everyone in there. And they had one of those old remember the gaming TVs with the doors that opened over the front?
Oh,
or whatever they were called, GX TV or something?
Speakers on them
Yeah, there were speakers on the doors that opened.
Yeah.
They had one of those set up with a PS1 and Resident Evil 2 in it, and there were a bunch of guys sitting around playing it. And I walked in doing this, no spoilers, no spoilers. I don't want to see. And I went to the counter and I said, I want Resident Evil 2 and I want Alundra, because they were same day.
Yeah.
And shut up and take my money, grabbed the games, got on the bus, and where did I go? Did I go to my house so I could sit down and play it?
No, you were smart.
No, I didn't. I was smart.
Yeah, you can't.
I went straight to his house, walked in through the basement door, and he looked over his shoulder and was like, what the fuck are you doing here? Which is a normal greeting for back then.
Yeah.
And I pulled out Resident Evil 2 and I said, I'm doing this. And he was, put it in. And so I put it in. We played for maybe an hour.
If even that.
And you were suddenly, turn it off. I'm seeing too much. Get in the car. And we drove out to Willow Video Games at King George and 72nd, for those of us that know Delta.
It used to be there. It's no longer there. Most of the Willow Video Games are gone now. There's one left in Langley.
The original is still standing.
Yeah.
But he picked it up, drove me to my house. He went back to his house, and we both sat down and we started playing and drinking.
So yeah. But the thing is
now
you're pretty good. It's a night later. You're thinking about a night later. The next day, I get up and I'm hungover as a mofo, and I'm like, oh, like a zombie. And I started to play the game, and it created this amazing atmosphere. It was so incredible. It was like I felt jumpy. You know, if you're hungover, you're a little bit jumpy at times. And it worked so well. The scare seemed a lot scarier. The mood seemed a lot more duller, you know, because you're like very kind of depressed. You know, and it's like creating that atmosphere. And for some reason, it worked so well with the Resident Evil 2. And then I got a certain call, like at 1 o'clock that night. I was sitting around. This is when you had telephones and not cell phones.
And there was no call display. You didn't know who was phoning.
Yeah.
But I somehow knew
I'd be up.
He would still be up.
Yeah, we kind of knew
because I was
schedule.
still up.
Yeah.
And if I'm still up playing it, there's no way this guy isn't.
Yeah.
So I phoned him, and he picks up the phone, and I hear him say hello, and all he heard was,
and actually took me a second. I said, what? And I started laughing, and I was like, oh, I get it. I get it. I'm fucking doing it too. And you were at your girlfriend's house at that time.
Yep.
And you were phoning up in the middle of the night. And so we had a really fun, drunken conversation that night about how much we were loving Resident Evil 2. And
So then we fast forward to the launch of Resident Evil 2 Remake.
21 years later.
And now there's a little bit of fate involved in some of this too.
Yeah.
Okay. I had not pre-ordered. I did not have the funds at the time to pre-order. I knew that the collector's edition was not going to happen. I just wanted to copy the game. And it happened to be launch day, and I happened to be driving around, and I ended up in our old neighborhood.
Yeah.
And there happens to be an EB Games there. And so, in between two of my service calls for the work I do, I stopped at the EB Games, and I walked in. And I saw there were a bunch of the copies of the game behind the shelf, so I walked up, and I said, yes, I'd like a copy of Resident Evil 2 for the PS4. On launch day, at an EB Games. In our old neighborhood. And she said, well, would you like the regular edition? Which is what I was leaning towards. Or would you like the deluxe edition? And I thought, well, okay, if they got one or two of those lying around, I'm not going to complain. And I was about to say yes when she said, or we had a last-minute cancellation, and we do have a collector's edition for the PS4. And I kind of, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's a stupid amount of money for that special edition, but, you know, like...
But it's Resident Evil 2!
I know.
So I had to do it, and I'm probably going to regret it, but it was so good. So I bought it, and I'm walking out, and the first thing I did was I took a picture of the box, and I texted it to him, and I got a reply back that said, someone's been a naughty monkey.
Yeah, I'd already picked up mine earlier that morning. I had to grab it and all that. And then... yes, you want to say this?
I finished my work day. It's sitting next to me the whole time. I went home, I unboxed everything and looked at all the things and the statue, which I love and is now up in a shrine in my bedroom with my original Mr. X action figure from when it first came out and my Liquor action figure, okay? And I was playing it, and then I'm playing it and I'm playing it, and then roundabout, it had to be 1:30 or 2 in the morning. And I thought to myself, well, it wouldn't be Resident Evil 2 if I didn't. So I picked up my phone and I dialed somebody.
21 years later, I gotta say that.
21 years later, on the launch day again, and I phoned someone up, and when he picked up the phone, I went,
How is that for tradition?
I had to do it.
How is that for tradition?
And that's how you do a remake re-release.
Yes, that's how you do it. And it was so funny and so nostalgic. And we were laughing on the phone about Mr. X, and we're like, it was just so funny.
And you right away were like, I can finally sleep. You did it again.
Yeah, I'm like, go to bed now. I was waiting for this goddamn phone call and all that. So that was a really fun one and all of that. And I just want to say that you just discovered the recovery drink. We went out for my birthday and you discovered what a recovery drink.
Taught me some magic.
Well, can I teach you how I learned it?
Please.
Is that back in the day when this certain game, Final Fantasy VIII came out, had a bit of a late night drinking. I was in film school. It was the weekend. It was a Sunday.
That's right, film school.
Yeah, it was a Sunday, and I just got Laguna in the game, and that Man with a Machine Gun theme. I'm playing that part of the game.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm not feeling good. And my mom and sister were upstairs. They were like making something to eat for Sunday dinner or something. And I remember my mom saying, oh, why do you have a beer or something like that type of thing. I was like, oh, we were funny. We never drank during the day.
No. We waited until after dinner.
After dinner, like late at night.
It was usually 8 or 9 at night was the earliest we'd allow ourselves a beer.
Yes, yeah. We're very, we're responsible.
We drink till 4 or 6 in the morning, but, we wouldn't start until.
Back then. And so... I was like, okay, and I was like, not feeling so good, and then I was having a cigarette and playing Laguna, and the Man with the Machine Gun theme's playing, and I'm drinking my beer, and I'm like, I feel a little bit better. And that's where I learned about the recovery beer.
Oh.
I'd never known about that until I must have been about 24, 25 at that time. That's crazy, yeah.
That is the most magical discovery.
Yes.
Of all time.
And so on my birthday, just this year, on my 45th birthday, I took Rob. We went to it's called the Red Lion, a British pub downtown. Yeah. And we had a couple of London Pride beers each. And they have British breakfast there. It's huge and crazy. So we had kind of a late night. We got up and we went down there.
And amazingly, you had told me the setup for this was, we have to drink a lot.
Yeah.
And you're staying the night.
Yeah.
Because we have to be hungover.
Yeah.
And go have these recovery beers at this pub.
At breakfast.
Now the most odd thing I've ever heard, purposely get a hangover. Purposely get a hangover.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm up for a good night of drinking, as much as anybody, especially with the two of us.
Yeah.
In the morning, I was less sure.
Yeah. So can I say something about this? We have the SkyTrain. It's the most amazing transit system in Vancouver, and from my place to where we need to go, it's a half an hour ride on this transit system. So I feel okay. I feel really good. Rob had drank a little bit of whiskey that night. That's your downfall. You're down. So, and here's the other thing. You're like, I gotta stop. I gotta get my Tim Hortons coffee.
I needed a coffee.
So he's like, he drowns this huge coffee in like 5 to 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden we got like 5 minutes before we're almost at this pub. He's pouring with sweat. He's like, I'm not doing so good.
Yeah, but that would have happened with or without the coffee.
Well, I don't know. It was a bit of a coffee sweat too. I think it's a combination of both. But anyways,
I thought I was going to die.
He was going to die. He was not doing. And I was kind of like a doctor saying, we're almost at the hospital. We're getting there. We're getting there.
So for those of you that understand this level of hangover, it's when the stomach starts to feel hollow and nauseous and hungry all at once. Your mouth, no matter how many times you brush your teeth, tastes like bile, and you are sweating constantly, and your head is... That's where I was.
So in other words, that's called a Rob morning.
Oh.
But you...
Yes.
Yeah, and I was saying to you, I'm like, 5 minutes to go. And I'm like, 3 minutes. And I'm like, holy shit.
We're almost there. We're almost there.
And so we sat down, and we ordered a drink. We ordered a London Pride, which I wanted to have. And we had it, and it's like really nice. And then I'm like, okay, now we're going to order a Scotch egg. So good. So good.
About a third of the way down that first pint, there's this moment where there's this like whooshing sensation through my body, and
the clouds open up.
All of the evil just leaves.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I go from, oh God. Well, hey.
Good, happy days are here again.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And we finish that pint. We order another and our Scotch egg.
Yeah.
Then those show up.
Yeah.
And the Scotch egg.
Oh, so good.
That Scotch egg was so good. It was so good. It was so good. It was like a religious experience. It was so good.
That's what I told them.
And we had the Scotch egg and another pint.
Yeah.
And then we had a full English.
Full on.
One more pint.
And one more pint. And then we were good to go for the day. You know, and that was kind of nice. And the one thing that we're here to say is, you know, if you're going to drink responsibly.
Yes.
And we are responsible people, you know, we got families and all that stuff. We were silly when we were younger, when we could be. But now we pick and choose our nights. Yeah. And that was a very special night because we very rarely are able to get together. Rob came over today. He finished work a little bit early. Said, I'm coming over. And like, that's why we have a bit of time.
Excellent.
You know, type of thing. Yeah. And you know what? Just what we do during the rest of the time, we just drink tea. We just drink tea all the time. That's all we do. Drink tea.
For sure.
Anything else? Any other hangover drinking things you remember from back in the day?
You know what? The only other one is just that hangovers are intrinsically linked in general to wild arms.
Oh, wow.
Because back in those days when we were, as you said, we basically, as a matter of fact, every morning, one of us would phone the other and the conversation would always start like this. Hello? I'm looking for Mr. Over. First name, Hung.
That's my joke.
Every time. Every time. I'd pick up the phone and I'd be like, hello? I'm looking for Mr. Over. First name, Hung.
yeah.
So, I mean, that was our life. So,
it's just so silly.
But when Wild Arms came out, I always remember because I would get up in the morning, stagger out of bed. My hair, when I had it, was all sticking up all over. I looked a bit like Jim from Taxi without the 5 o'clock shadow.
There was a time when Rob had hair, and quite amazing hair, that he would come over in the morning and look like Corbin Dallas from Fifth Element.
So I would stagger downstairs and kind of out into the backyard, and I'd light a cigarette, and I'd smoke my cigarette, and I'd look at myself in the reflection in the window, and I had this hair sticking up everywhere and a cigarette hanging out of my mouth and like a dirty tank top and a pair of sweatpants. It's kind of, I'm living the 80s dream. Oh, yeah. And then I'd go in and make a cup of tea, and then I'd get on my bike and go to your place.
Yeah.
And either you were still in bed, or you were already sitting down at the TV playing Wild Arms. And I'd walk in and I'd sit down, and the day was drinking tea and watching you level grind. And every once in a while, you'd pass me the controller and I'd do some level grinding. Yeah. And the instructions were always the same. Don't use any items, don't use any of my magic, and don't get me killed.
You're right.
So
yeah. That's still how it is today.
Don't use my items, don't use my magic, and don't get me killed.
Yeah, and you know, back then, I just most of our time, and we've talked about it over the years, was playing Street Fighter Alpha 2. I mean, I remember. It's weird because it was before the internet. We had so much time on our hands, and we had nothing to fill it. So we just played Street Fighter all the time. Like you have no idea.
We invented our own games with it.
Yeah, within it, which we've talked about many times. But that's the one that because there was no internet, there was nothing else to do.
So we'd
have one game and play over and over and over and over.
When you got sick and tired of level grinding, we would always invariably put in a Street Fighter.
Right.
And I would invariably lose.
And
over and over and over and over.
That is just reality.
That is reality.
That is the sobering reality of this conversation. We'll ask you guys down below, is there any games that you played that have helped you recover from a very, very terrible hangover? Is there any hangover games that you recommend? So anyways, guys, until next time.